Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. We're doing another KSP video. I'll have a regular SFS video out tomorrow. I just want to do one more thing. We have a pretty odd looking launch vehicle here, as you might see. We have a shuttle in the middle, and then we have 4 side boosters on each side with 4 vector engines powering them. That's actually only 2 side boosters. The 2 on each side are connected. And they are just boosting us up into our orbit so that we can circularize with just the shuttle. I didn't actually need the whole, orange tank SRB setup, so I figured, why do all that work? It was a very difficult thing to fly. That's why I have MechJeb up. I know I said I was going to try to do things, myself, but it's a little difficult to fly. It was very unstable. I probably could have fixed it, but I didn't have the time. We're doing our burn here to circularize, and now we'll be going to the destination point this episode, which is Minmus. We're going to be going to those large flats. It has a nice place to land our shuttle and to build a base, because that is what we were doing, building a base. It's all packed away in the cargo bay of that shuttle. And it's a decent sized base. Like, it's not huge, but it's not, super small either. We have we're going to get a view here in just a second. But I can talk a little bit about this shuttle. It's a standard shuttle. We have a bit larger wings than most people go for shuttles. I like to put those narrower deltas on the side at the front end of those wings to stretch them out a little bit, and then I just shift the tail fin down into that fuel tank there. And then now you can see here our base. We have one of those full science workstations. We have a Kupla module. We have a ore refinery. We have a solar array, and we have a drill, obviously, and some radiators to go with it. Generally all the stuff you need to make a base. I talked over our burn here to Minmus. It was a fair, pretty standard. We aren't meeting up at the best times, so our inclination is a bit off, but overall it looks pretty good. You can see there I'm just plotting we plotted a correction burn, and then I plotted our circularization burn. We're coming in slightly inclined, but it doesn't really matter that much for this video. I mean, as long as we can hit one of those flats, we should be good. Another thing to mention, the Delta V numbers on this mission are surprisingly tight. We're using that nuclear stage. Originally I was trying to use chemical rockets, but I just could not get the Delta V that I needed out of the rocket as a whole, so we switched to the liquid fuel, and that's giving us a little bit better, but it was still a challenging-ish mission. We land with less than 100 meters per second in that nuclear stage, and less than 100 in our VTOL section, which is a chemical rocket, obviously. So we're doing our descent burn here. We're starting with the nuclear engines, basically just to cancel out as much of our horizontal velocity as possible, so we are coming straight down. And then we are going to be pointing the whole space shuttle to the north vector, just so that it can stabilize itself there. You can see we're deploying our landing legs, or our wheels. Then I hit action group 1, and that switches us to 4 twitch engines with 2 at the front and 2 at the back. The ones at the front have a slightly lower thrust control, so they're not producing quite as much thrust, but that's just to balance it out. And we come down here for a pretty soft landing. This was a little hard to control. It just kind of wobbled a bit, and we didn't have great thrust-to-weight ratio, but we still managed to come down right on target. And you can see here I'm opening the cargo bay, because the first thing we need to do before anything is, we need to drop our first payload, and that is our main core of the base. That is our science and command module, and then we need to actually use the refinery that we're delivering here to get some extra fuel. And then we also will be deploying the solar panels from our solar module. It kind of clips through there a little bit, but I don't mind too much. And you see we're just time warping ahead we just time warped ahead to get all our liquid fuel. And now I was going to refill the oxidizer, but then I decided, well, actually we probably have enough oxidizer. with what we have left to get off the ground, because that's all we needed to. We just need to get a little bit of air, and then we can just switch to the nuclear engines, which is our main thing. I actually put a little bit too much liquid fuel in there. You'll see we have to kind of do some less efficient burns to kind of just waste some, basically, so that we can land. This thing has a little bit of trouble landing full. I mean, you probably could do it, but I'm not a skilled enough pilot to. So you can see there I'm just transferring some of our crew over. We have, the full complement: an engineer, a scientist, and a pilot. You can see there I had this air brake on the side to help stand it up once we were at Minmus, but it turned out to be unnecessary because the gravity of Minmus is so low that the reaction wheels themselves could just prop it up. And right now, you can see here I'm using some RCS thrusters to try and move what is actually our solar array. This is going to be docking onto the side of our main central module. Have a little bit of trouble here. I think I needed some more RCS ports. They're not super strong, and it has a bit of trouble lifting it up. In fact, it can't lift up the thing by itself. It has to have a little bit of help. And then we do have to keep occasionally deploying those solar panels because we start running out of electric charge. There's just one probe core, no reaction wheels, no batteries or anything. So you can see here I'm just moving up to dock onto this docking port that we have. Not this one, but that one over there on the side that's angled a little bit differently. It's also slightly lower down to match the height of the landing legs. I tried to use our solar panels to flip us the correct direction there. Basically, this whole thing was very challenging because I am not good with RCS maneuvering, especially on the surface of a planet, and while the whole thing's rotating and spinning around. I'm just not too great at it. But you can see here, we do eventually get it. I end up deploying the landing legs, and that gives us enough of a boost to where we can kind of maneuver it around a bit. I also end up moving the central module itself just by leaning it and then using Q and E to rotate it around, and it kind of rolls a little bit on one side of that battery in the bottom there. But you can see here now, I just turn it around so that we're facing the correct docking node, so we were looking at the wrong one, and then I'm able to prop up this one once I disable some of the back RCS ports. And then we get docked, and it worked surprisingly well. We were pretty straight on. I didn't have to do any kind of shifting around with those landing legs. But now, that module was a little bit difficult to dock. Here comes the most difficult module that we had to deal with, which was this ISRU. I really didn't think it was going to be that much. I did some testing, and it was very easy to just kind of wobble the central thing into place next to it, and then the magnetism handled it. But it was very difficult because we actually did get a docking fairly quickly. But, of course, it was severely angled up, so much so that I had to undock it. And at that point, it didn't want to redock. So I had to maneuver this whole thing 20-something meters away and then wobble it all the way back over so that it would dock again. I just cut that part out because, there's not really much to see, and it's not interesting to watch. And it took forever. But yeah, so you can see there, we're really angled, so I have to undock there, and then we're going to have, a not-so-subtle cut here in just a second, where you'll see that we have successfully docked with our SRU module there. Alright, so there we go there. And now we can kind of move this shuttle up. I was trying to move it up to get a nice picture, and that's when I noticed there was something weird going on with the wheels. They're kind of they're clipping into the ground. I don't know why that happened. It happened for the rest of the mission too, just the entire time. How we were kind of clipped. I tried to close the payload bay, but it kind of flipped us up in the air. I had to use some of our landing thrusters to softly put us back down. I have to open that cargo bay back up, and then I use the engineer here to take off all the things that we used for maneuvering, the RCS ports, and also the RCS tanks that were kind of clipped inside of there. I know some people don't like clipping, but all of those fuel tanks there are empty, so you could conceivably just have those inside of them. So I don't think it's cheating too much. But it takes a little bit here. We kind of have to move them onto the ground, and then I have to walk over here and move them again. Probably could have gotten them all the way in, but I didn't go far enough the first time. But now we can walk over here and put them into this cargo storage container that I put in here before we left. And once we do that, that is pretty much our base fully assembled. You'll see here, he's going to go into the base, and then we will hit an action group that will deploy everything, make it look really nice. I'll try to find a good angle here. And there we have it. We have, our antenna there as well. There are 2 radiators that drill the kind of wall of solar panels. And you can see here we have the little inside view from the science area. But that is actually going to be that for that. So I use this shuttle bay to kind of flip us up into the air. And then I switch my control point to a docking port that I have on the back of the shuttle to, so I can just say radial out. And then we use our nerve, the nuclear engines, to start our burn back to Earth. So this is pretty standard. We're just going on orbit. I have to point, I can't point straight horizontal. We don't have enough vertical velocity yet. But we get up there pretty quickly. It takes very little to get to orbit on Minmus. So little, in fact, that by the time we get to orbit, we have over 3,000 meters per second of delta V left. And that is way too much to land with. I've really overfilled the shuttle. So I kind of trying to do something interesting here, or just thinking, maybe I can go to the Mun. I was thinking of doing a Mun landing as well, but then when I got there, I could see that the Werner engines didn't have quite enough thrust. Not the Werner engines, the Twitch engines. They didn't have quite enough thrust to land on the Mun. And I didn't want to try landing on the nuclear engines. So we ended up skipping it. I did make several attempts that got cut out. All of them ended up basically crashing. To get rid of some delta V, I tried changing our inclination at the Mun rather than, at the apoapsis where you would usually want to do it. And that worked decently well. You can see here I still have to do a little bit of correction burns there. But, overall, it works out pretty good. We actually do 2 correction burns, just due to the low thrust to weight ratio of the nuclear engines. That really wasn't by, choice. It was more of an accident that happened. And then we do the major thing that lowers our fuel levels, is that we lower our apoapsis into the atmosphere rather than the periapsis like you normally would. Basically, this whole second half of the mission is wildly inefficient. I would not recommend you use this as a guide for your own missions unless you have, thousands and thousands of meters per second of delta V extra. And even then, I don't know why you would do that. So I'm going for a periapsis here of roughly 50 kilometers. It's a little bit under that, which is what I usually go with for my shuttles. Because usually, you can angle the shuttle in just a way to where either you come down on that orbit at some landing site, or you can stay straight enough to where you can just kind of skim off the atmosphere, lowering your apoapsis a little bit. It's a pretty safe way to do it. You can have pretty fine control over where you end up landing at 50 kilometers, regardless of your apoapsis. You can see here I also have to shift some fuel forward. This was after, several attempts where I didn't do this, and then we ended up kind of crashing. So, this took multiple attempts to land, just because it's so back heavy with those nuclear engines and the fuel tank at the back, and it has an empty payload bay now. I really designed this with the payload already in there, so landing without it was a bit of a challenge. We're coming over almost to the Kerbin Peninsula, the one with the landing strip. We're moving at a decent speed. I have the mech jib window up there, but that's just for our trajectory. That's not actually providing any kind of control. And we're doing my, the standard way I land shuttles, which is where I have my, where I'm going to land put about 30 to 40 kilometers behind the KSC, and then we just hold prograde, and then it'll actually move a little bit forward. This one I had it set a little bit too close to the KSC, so we almost overshot, but I had to use the RCS to slow us down, otherwise we probably would have. We had some RCS blocks blow up there, in fact, just from overheating. I probably could have moved those somewhere to make that not happen, but at this point it was getting late, so I didn't really want to redo any more quick saves and quick loads. And we do have a few more, and they're kind of obvious because for some reason, once in the atmosphere, the camera resets whenever you do a quick save, so it moves to a different position. I don't exactly know why that is, but it does make it kind of annoying. It makes it kind of obvious here in just a second. It turns out fine here in the end because we make a successful landing at the runway, as you'll see here in just a second. And that's actually going to mark the end of our video, guys. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the like button, comment down below with what you want to see next, SFS content, KSP content, some other kind of space game. And I will see you all next time. Bye.